Hey, what is up, guys? We are here with the Kenshi character breakdown. If you haven't seen our character breakdowns before, we talk about the notable normals, strings, special moves, differences between their variations, as well as a basic game plan for the character. So today we're looking at Kenshi. He is a very defensive, space control kind of character whose goal is pretty much for you to never be near him, and at least in his balanced and possessed variation. We'll get to Kenjutsu in just a little bit. As you can see, his walk speed towards and back is not super fast. It's not really that great. His run speed is pretty average as well. He doesn't move around really quick, right? He's not a super mobile, aggressive character. His job is to pretty much make sure you never reach him. And he has a lot of special moves and normals to make that happen. Now, when you look at the normals of a character who is defensive and zoning like this, your goal is to find normals that help you defend yourself in situations when your opponent gets on top of you, and also to create space, right? So when you look at Kenshi's normals, he has a couple of ones that are pretty important. One of them is back 2, and this move is safe on block, launches them back to full screen so you can set up your zoning again, and it kind of lunges them forward as well, so you can just, walk back and forth, back 2. That is a pretty good normal, and especially for a zoner, that's something you should be looking for. He also has his 2-2-4. Now, this string is really interesting because it has a couple of components to it. 2-2 just flips them around and lets you do like a standing reset, right? So this is really good if you're near the corner or something and you want to just do this, and now they're in the corner and you have all that space to walk back and do stuff. 2-2-4 is a little different because it knocks them down, which means now I have all this space and the knockdown, so I can choose to run up and go for some kind of mix-up, or I can just back off and zone, right? So that is his 2-2-4, really interesting string. His back 3-2 as well as his forward 3-2 are really good strings. So back 3-2 looks like this. It's a low mid, special cancelable, whatever you want. And his forward 3-2, same kind of job, right? It looks the ender of it's the same. The only difference is back 3-2 is a low and it has slightly less range than forward 3. But back 3-2 is definitely a really strong string, and what I would recommend going to has a little push on it. It's safe on block and it's a low, so it'll catch a lot of people standing. Really great defensive string for Kenshi. Now, his other strings that I would take a look at is his 4-2-1, because it is neutral on block and you can hit confirm it into whatever move you want to special cancel into. Really great. 4-down-4 is a little overhead string right there, and 4-3 has a little launcher, is also special cancelable. So those are his strings. Now, let's talk about his universal moves that he has in every variation. The thing about Kenshi is that he doesn't have the same moves in every variation, even if he has the same inputs. They kind of do the same thing or have the same purpose, but they're slightly different. So I'll show you guys what we mean when we switch variation. But for balanced, what he has is down back 1, a little uppercut move like that. EX version has a higher juggle than the normal version and does a little bit more damage. He also has back forward 2, which is just this little rush push move. EX version just does more damage, extra hit at the end. He also has back forward 3, which looks just like this. It is homing, so wherever your opponent is, that's where it'll be on screen. EX version, extra hit, and a little knockdown on it as well. So in balance, again, he has back forward 2, which we mentioned was the push, back forward 3, down back 1 uppercut, and his reflect, which is down back 2. The thing about this reflect that's really neat is the EX mechanic on it. So if he shoots a high fireball, you'll see the reflect. Oh, whoops, I totally did the wrong input. It just reflects it right back at him, right? But the EX reflect is a heal. So I got 5% of my life back. And I tested against fireballs that did more damage, and it was the same amount of health each time. So it was 5%. I think it's locked at 5%, but maybe my testing was inconclusive and something's wrong. But from what I looked at in the characters, it gives him 5% every time for an EX meter, which is pretty great. And that is balanced, right? Special moves are pretty straightforward. It's designed around keeping you out and making sure you never get to Kenshi. And once you do, it's designed to push you back away from him. So let's take a look at Possessed. Possessed is pretty similar, although it has a couple of tweaks. A lot of the moves are going to be the exact same, but just look slightly different. Now, here's the thing. You can see already that all the moves have these fancy demonic ways to them. He also has a new normal in this, which is 4-4, right? Nice little low, reaches pretty far. Now, the thing about this is that it basically does everything that balance does, but just in a slightly more aggressive manner. So he still has his down back 1 uppercut, which looks like this. Has a little knockdown at the end of it. EX version, same thing, just extra hits. And you can juggle off of it. So there's that. He has his back forward 2, which is just a little push like that. EX version, same kind of thing. Also with the overhead on the knockdown. He has back forward 3 as well. Looks like this. Homing again, and it does the same purpose. Same purpose as his back forward 3 in balance, right? So you're probably starting to see a trend. The only difference between this one is that it leaves you close. So you can be a little bit more aggressive if you'd like. And speaking of aggressive, he also has his down back 2 in this stance, which is a teleport. EX version of it looks like that. You can hit a normal on the way down. So that is his teleport in this variation. He also has down forward 4, which looks like this. It's a nice little strike like that. Is an overhead, which now you can see why this move is pretty good, right? Because this move is an overhead, and he has a little low. So when you see the little guy, it's kind of hard to tell which is which. So that is why, you know, it has a little bit more of aggressive options to it, but it basically is very similar to his balanced variation and is, again, a pretty defensive variation. When you look into Kenjutsu, that's when Kenshi gets a little bit more, you know, aggressive, a little bit more willing to walk forward and do stuff. So he has the sword that he uses as a melee weapon in this one, right? So he uses it in a lot of his strings that he previously didn't. One of the ones, 2 of the normals actually that he has is his back 2, which is a lunging overhead, and his forward 2. Forward 2 is also special cancelable, which means that his mix-ups are a lot better. Because remember earlier we talked about this string, back 3-2. Now he has a low starter and an overhead starter. So that means Kenshi has 50-50s in Kenjutsu. You also may have noticed he doesn't have his headband in this, so, you know, there's that. Again, universally he has down back 1, a little uppercut in this. Lunges forward a lot more in this variation than the other variations, moves farther out. So there's that. He also has back forward 2, which is just a little push. It does the same thing as back forward 2 in the other stances, but just looks slightly different. That's kind of thing. Doesn't have quite the same range. Back forward 3, which is a little lift, and it side switches, which is, again, pretty interesting. Does a little bit more damage when you EX it. The other things that are unique to this is his palm, which is down back 4. Looks like that. So, you know, EX version is really, really good. This move is where Kenjutsu really shines, I think, because afterwards you can walk up. Now you can combo off this, right? You can do a combo, or you can choose to do it at the end of your combo and have it be a standing reset. So you can walk up and you can use your overhead, or you could use your low, and now you have real mix-ups that your opponent just has to deal with. Really, really great. He still, again, in this version has his reflect, which he didn't have in the possess variation. He had that little overhead move. But yeah, he still has a reflect, does the same kind of thing in Kenjutsu. And that is Kenshi. He actually is pretty straightforward to break down because he pretty much has the same special moves in every variation. But they just do something a little, you know, they look slightly different, but basically serve the same purpose. Besides Kenjutsu. Kenjutsu, a little bit more aggressive, a little bit more towards that offensive style. So a lot of you guys were really interested in the Kenshi one. If you guys like defensive characters, control space well, this is definitely a character I would recommend. He's very good at controlling where your opponent is going to be and shutting down where they want to be. So Kenshi's really fun, really cool character. Hopefully you guys have enjoyed the breakdown. I'll see you guys again soon.